I read a wonderful quote from an old Japanese sensei many years ago, and I believe he was an aikido instructor. And he said that in the Japanese martial arts, anyone who calls himself a master isn't. And I love that quote. It says everything about what separates us from so much of the martial art garbage that's out there. And I'm sorry, I mean that seriously. I think that anybody who is creating stories and anybody who is lying to their students just to kind of fill some, some self-serving need, it's garbage, and it needs to be stopped. And we need to be protectors of something that's very, very, very honorable, something that involves so much integrity, and something that in many ways is a treasure. There's no more important belt in your dojo than the white belt. There's no more important student than the Mukyu level. To me, someone who earns their white belt has fulfilled a much, much larger goal in their life than any shodan or black belt. And here's why. I want you to take a step back to when you first did your martial arts class, if you can remember that. When you first started, and you've never experienced martial arts before, you walked into an environment that was very intimidating. There were people that you didn't know that were doing crazy things. They were throwing each other, they were breaking each other, they were punching and kicking and screaming and shouting, and it was a completely new environment, something you'd never been exposed to before. And the fact that you were able to put one foot in front of the other, step onto the mat or step out onto the floor and really go for it says so much about you and says so much about anybody who takes that first step. Now, if they're children, possibly mom or dad are pushing them out on the mat, or they have the type of character where they're not afraid of trying new things. But the reality is this: one of the greatest fears, or the greatest fear that humans have, is the fear of performing in front of other people, or speaking in front of large groups, or performing in front of audiences. To many people, this can be terrifying. To most people, it can be terrifying. And a lot of us guys who practice, say, jiu-jitsu or judo, when we do break falls, now you're doing the second most feared thing of all humans, which is falling. So now I've got a new student, I take him out onto the mat. The first thing I do is I teach him to do a break fall in front of a large group of people. So you're literally taking a new person who's already intimidated, who's already scared, who doesn't know what to expect. You're putting them right in front of the two of humankind's greatest fears. But you have to understand that overcoming that and making it to the white belt is something that should not be taken lightly. It is not the beginning. It is possibly their greatest accomplishment. So be a student first. Be a student always. And don't just be a student of your Budo. Now, even if you're renting a training group at a local YMCA, it doesn't make a difference. You can still have an extremely profitable, and I mean profitable, I don't just mean monetarily, but a successful and viable training group that's very professional at many, many levels and gives a very valuable perceived or a very large amount of perceived value when someone first walks into your training group and first has that initial experience. You need to study business. You need to study personal enrichment, personal empowerment, personal growth. And you need to actually study your martial art. So don't become someone who is unhealthy, lethargic, complacent. Be a student in your martial art. Don't feel as though you need to inflate your ego in front of a new student. Be a master of time and not a master of talk. Be a master of listening and not a master of bragging. This is really important, and this is something that everyone at every level needs to study. Please don't introduce yourself as Sensei Bob anymore. Okay? Please introduce yourself as Mr. Smith or even Bob. This is a really important thing because as a traditionalist, I can walk into a karate school or a karate school or any type of school, and when someone walks over and demands that I call them master or demands that I call them sensei or shihan or renshi or kyoshi, it kind of makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. So I think that when our new prospective students who come into the dojo for the first time, who are looking for their expectations to be filled, they're going to see through self-entitlement. You call yourself a master, that's kind of weird. So please, get off that and start calling yourself by who you can. Of course you can say, In the dojo, the students address the instructor as sensei. The students, address me as Kyoshi Adam or Renshi Adam or whatever your entitlement is. But please stop calling yourself that, because people will see through it, and it won't fulfill the expectations that you have an obligation to serve to those new students. Become a model of your Budo. And again, the reason I say this, and I'm not trying to be harsh on anyone, is that you need to represent your martial art. You need to represent the expectations that new students and existing students have of that martial art.